just going to do a re-upload of this if you've already seen this, because I didn't introduce it properly. Michael McGuigan is a paediatric consultant. He wasn't one of the gang of 7, but he nearly was. Of course, that would make him one of the gang of 8 then. I'm just going to read this witness statement because it's quite apt at the moment. On the 29th of March 2017, just to put that in context, we're about 1 month before the hospital contacts the police. My secretary had a phone call from Tracy Bullock's secretary. Tracy was the chief exec of Mid Cheshire Hospital's Leighton Hospital crew at the time, asking to speak to me. She arranged for an appointment to speak to me by telephone for the following day, 30th of March. Tracy had been the chief exec at crew throughout the entire time that I'd been working there as a consultant, and I knew her reasonably well through that work. She rang me up and explained that she's a personal friend of Tony Chambers, and that as a chief exec in a trust nearby, they would talk about what was happening in their organisations and bounce ideas off each other. So she was aware of what was happening within the Council of Chester at the time, and she had suddenly realised that I was now working at Chester and had potentially now found myself in a very tricky position. Her understanding of the situation was that there were clinical issues on the neonatal unit, that the paediatricians were refusing to accept these clinical issues and trying to pursue another explanation for the problems that had been happening on the neonatal unit. And we all know what that explanation is. That they were pushing for a police investigation. Her understanding was there were 2 particular leaders of that refusal to accept the clinical issues on the unit and pushing for an alternative explanation, and that things were going to end badly for those 2 leaders. She was concerned that I was going to get caught up in it and my reputation would be brought down along with those other paediatricians. She did not mention the names of the 2 paediatricians, but it would be obvious it was Ravi and Steve as the clinical and neonatal leads. She had heard that an email from me had been read out in the meeting on the Monday pushing for a police investigation. She was concerned for me that my reputation would be brought down along with the other paediatricians in the trust. She was basically ringing me, telling me to be very careful. I can't quite remember how she started our conversation, but my understanding was that it was from her relationship with Tony Chambers that she'd received the information. Tony Chambers had been at the meeting on the Monday and would have heard my email being read out and was clearly considering at the time whether a police investigation was the right or wrong thing to do. The telephone call was a slightly awkward conversation. I didn't know what she knew and didn't want to say things that I wasn't allowed to say and breach confidentiality. My response was that it was hard being part of something as serious as this in a new organisation where I did not know people. If I'd been at Leighton Hospital where I knew people well, it would have been easier. In this situation with a chief exec and medical director that I did not know, and a department where there was a significant difference between the paediatric consultants and the trust execs on how we should proceed. My other response was that I didn't feel I was working with a bunch of people who were ignorant and had got themselves on the wrong agenda, but that I had a lot of confidence with the people I was working with, that it wasn't just the opinion of 2 people, but everybody was concerned in a similar way. I had confidence in my colleagues that they were trying to do the right thing in a difficult situation. The implication of what she was saying is that the paediatricians should be recognising the faults within themselves and their department and addressing them, and that because they are egotistical, selfish, or in denial, that they were trying to push the problem onto someone else, that they are bad people who are heading for a downfall. Actually, what I was saying was people who believed the right thing to do was to continue to push for a police investigation, despite the fact they were under threat of disciplinary action. It was completely the opposite. They were trying to do the right thing, despite being under a lot of pressure. That they were doing the right thing despite it potentially having consequences for them. I did not feel any pressure from that phone call, or that she was calling me to tell me to shut up. It was purely that she was concerned that I was in a tricky position, wondering if I was making the wrong judgment calls, and warning me about how it might be seen by other people. It was purely a friendly call to tell me to be careful about the situation. So, just so you get a sense of how the paediatricians in the group of 7 might react, might defend themselves, but also so you get a sense of how everyone, even people not working in the hospital, even people from outside, can see exactly what the real situation was, about who the bad actors were. There's been quite a lot of things I've been wanting to talk about, little bits here and there, and then now I've ended up not saying anything. It's just been so much, it's sort of become clogged. And I don't know if you've noticed, a couple of people have noticed that although all of my videos have say Lucy Letby, Lucy Letby, Lucy Letby, none of them are really actually about Lucy Letby as a person. The reason that is because in this whole story, this saga, she's not really a person of interest. She's just a nurse like any other nurse, like Mary Griffiths, Melanie Taylor, Mina Napoleonian, or whatever the name was. And like one of the police officers in, one of the detectives in Operation Hummingbird, they described her as beige. And really that sort of tells you something. And that should have told them something. And I will be doing some more comedy stuff as well. I've got stuff on the go, don't worry. But I just thought would be interesting to share that little nugget there.